We're going to take a look at the Falcons taking on the Ravens, 1 o'clock Saturday. Of course, that is Christmas Eve day. Baltimore's -7, totals 34.5. And I'll tell you what, for a team laying a touchdown here, the Ravens really have a tough time covering the point spread. They're 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 ball games. They also failed to cover in all of their contests this season in front of their own fans. Now, Baltimore is once again going to work without Lamar Jackson. And as good as their defense has been, the Ravens do tend to allow a bunch of points late in games. These guys are in the bottom 5 in fourth quarter points allowed. Now, they're facing an Atlanta squad who's 4-3 against the number while traveling. And even though this Falcons defense has struggled this year, they're allowing fewer fourth quarter points on the road than any other team in the league. Now, Rashaan Evans, he currently has 144 tackles on the season and a couple of fumble recoveries. Meanwhile, teammate Grady Jarrett, he has 6 sacks and 11 tackles for loss. Now, injury-wise, Edoga's out for the Falcons on Saturday. Meanwhile, for Baltimore, Campbell, Peters, and Jackson are out for them. And if you don't know already, Tyler Huntley is once again the starter at quarterback for the Ravens. Now, weather-wise, very cold and windy in the Inner Harbor. It's going to be 21 degrees with over 15-mile-an-hour winds by game time. When it comes to the total, Baltimore's 5-1 to the under at home, 10-4 to the under at any location. Meanwhile, Atlanta saw 4 out of their last 7 on the road stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Falcons +7, under 34.5. Next game, it is going to be Bills taking on the Bears. 1 o'clock Eastern start time. Buffalo's -8.5, totals 40. But despite being favored in this one, Buffalo's not an incredibly good covering team. They failed to cover in 6 out of their last 8. And they do tend to give up points early in games. The Bills are currently in the bottom 10 in the league in first quarter points allowed on the road. They're also facing a Chicago team who's covered the point spread this year against the likes of Philadelphia, Miami, and New England. As a matter of fact, the Bears currently have a winning record against the point spread at Soldier Field this year. And of course, much of that is thanks to a very strong running game. The Bears are currently rushing for a league best 214 yards a game on the ground at home. And of course, Justin Fields, the very athletic quarterback, he is a 1,000-yard rusher this year. Meanwhile, David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert, they have over 1,300 yards on the ground combined together as well. Now, injury-wise, Wesco and St. Brown are out. Jenkins, Claypool, and Whitehair are doubtful. Meanwhile, for Buffalo on the other side of things, Mitch Morse and Carlos Basham's out. Oliver and Phillips are questionable. Now, weather-wise, insanely cold in the Windy City on Saturday. It's going to be about 12 degrees with winds above 20 miles an hour. When it comes to the total, Chicago saw unders against the likes of Philadelphia and Washington. Meanwhile, Buffalo saw all 7 of their road games this year stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean towards Chicago +8.5, under 40. Next matchup, it is going to be Bengals, Patriots, 1 o'clock East. Cincinnati's -3, totals 42. Now, this one's going to be tricky to handicap here because both teams actually do have some problem areas that concern me. Now, for Cincinnati, these guys have established little to no run game on the road this year. They're actually rushing for just 77 yards a game while traveling, and that is actually second worst in the NFL. Meanwhile, New England on the other side, they're one of the worst home scoring teams in the league as well. The Pats are actually in the bottom 5 in points per game in front of their own crowd. Now, injury-wise, Parker and Mills are out for New England. They're going to be inactive here on Saturday. Meanwhile, Jones, Harris, and Thornton, they're also listed as questionable. Meanwhile, for Cincy on the other side, Hayden Hurst is out. Cam Taylor-Britt is questionable. When it comes to the weather report, cold and windy in Foxborough here tomorrow. 21 degrees and 15-mile-an-hour wind by game time. Now, total-wise, the Pats saw 4 out of their last 6 at Gillette Stadium stay under the number. Meanwhile, Cincinnati's 64% to the under for the entire year. Now, when it comes to selecting a winner in this one, This game's being featured as one of my NFL tier package bets on my website for this week. So if you want to see whether I like Cincinnati laying a field goal on the road here, or if I like New England catching the 3 at home, there's only one way to find out, and that's to sign up for my NFL tier package bet on my website. And of course, I'll include a link for my site in the description section below. And just a reminder, guys, if you do end up signing up for that package here today, you're going to get access to that membership for the next 30 days. And of course, as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of the cheaper memberships on my site, absolutely free. They're going to be included with your purchase. But as far as making a free pick is concerned with this game, I'm going to lean toward the under 42. Next matchup, it is going to be Lions-Panthers, 1 o'clock Eastern start time. Detroit's -2 on the road, totals 43. Now, this is another one of those games where I do see significant problem areas with both squads. Now, for Detroit, these guys are playing some of the worst defense in the NFL. They're also allowing more yards per play on defense than any other franchise in the league. Meanwhile, for Carolina on the other side, these guys are literally no threat throwing the football. They're actually throwing for just $1.69 per game. And that currently puts them in the bottom 3 in the league in that particular category. Now, when it comes to the injury report, C.J. Henderson is questionable for the Panthers. Meanwhile, Sam Darnold, he's back in the saddle as the starting quarterback for Carolina. Welcome back. It's going to be a chilly one there, Sammy. Meanwhile, for Detroit on the other side of things, Deshaun Elliott's been ruled out. Derek Barnes is questionable. And like I just mentioned, weather-wise, going to be a chilly one in Charlotte. 29 degrees and a wind's going to be over 10 miles an hour in the Queen City there. Now, total-wise, 5 out of Carolina's last 8 at home did stay under the number. Meanwhile, Detroit saw unders versus the likes of the Jets, Bills, and Packers. When it comes to selecting a winner in this one, this game's being featured as my second NFL tier package bet on my website. So if you want to see whether I like Carolina catching a couple of points at home, or if I like Detroit laying the 2 on the road, once again, there's only one way to find out, and that's to sign up for my NFL tier package bet on my website. And like I said before, I'll include a link for that site in the description section below. And once again, just another reminder, if you sign up for that package here today, you're going to get access to that membership for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships, absolutely free. They're going to be included with your purchase. But as far as making a free pick is concerned, I'm going to lean toward the under 43. Next game, Texans-Titans, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Tennessee's the 3-point favorite at home, totals 35. Now, the Titans should be able to get the job done at home here. They're allowing just 19 points a game at Nissan Stadium. And they do have a top 3 rush defense. Kevin Byard and David Long Jr., they have over 170 tackles between the both of them. Meanwhile, Jeffrey Simmons and Danico Autry, they have over 14 sacks combined. Now, they're facing a 1-win Houston team who lost their last 9 straight, and they rank second to last in offensive yards per play. Meanwhile, on the defensive end of things, the Texans allow more rush yards a game than any other team in the league. Now, injury-wise, Nelson and Cooks are questionable. Kenyon Green's out. Meanwhile, for Tennessee, Tannehill and Fulton are out. Avery, Burks, Brewer, and Hooker are questionable for them. When it comes to the weather in this one, 23 degrees and windy at kickoff. When it comes to the total, the Titans are 9-5 to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, Houston saw 5 out of their last 8 stay under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Titans, -3, under 35. Next matchup, it is going to be Saints at the Browns, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Now, Cleveland's the 3-point favorite, totals 32. Now, the Browns won 3 out of their last 4 ball games. They've done a nice job covering the number recently. They covered in 5 out of their last 8. And they're doing a real nice job running the football. These guys are gaining over 160 yards a game on the ground at First Energy Stadium. Nick Chubb has over 1,250 rushing yards. He's also averaging 5 yards a carry. Now, Chubb scored a dozen times on the ground as well. Now, Cleveland's facing a Saints team who lost 6 out of their last 9 themselves. And they got the W only one time on the road this year. Now, equally as bad, the Saints are just 1-5 against the spread while traveling as well. When it comes to offensive production, or lack thereof, the Saints continue to struggle running the football. They're in the bottom 3 in road rushing, and they're scoring only 16 points a game away from New Orleans. Now, injury-wise, Williams, Pete, Lattimore, and May are questionable. Chris Olave is out. Meanwhile, for Cleveland, Jadeveon Clowney is out. John Johnson is questionable. When it comes to the weather report, insanely cold and windy with a chance of snow. It'll be 10 degrees and 30-mile-an-hour wind at game time. They're also, like I said, there's going to be a chance of a snow shower at some point as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they got a little lake effect snow squall there. But anyway, total-wise, Cleveland's last 4 straight all stayed under the number. 6-2 to the under in their last 8. Meanwhile, New Orleans saw 6 out of their last 8 stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Cleveland -3, under 32. Next matchup, Giants, Vikings, 1 o'clock Eastern start time. Minnesota's -4, totals 49.5. Now, I do have concerns about this number for the Vikes. They failed to cover in their last 2 straight, and they're actually covering in only 50% of their ball games at home. When it comes to defensive play, this is one of the worst secondaries in professional football. These guys allow more passing yards a game than every other team in the league except for one. Now, they're facing a Giants team who does a nice job covering the point spread themselves. They're 7-3 against the spread in their last 10. They failed to cover only 1 time this year on the road. And of course, the Giants' biggest strength is their ability to run the football. And of course, when you talk about the Giants, you talk about running, you got to mention Saquon Barkley, who's gained nearly 1,200 yards this year on the ground. And he also scored 9 times. Meanwhile, as a team, the Giants are in the top 5, in rushing yards per game. Now, injury-wise, Jackson and Lemieux are out for the G-men. Meanwhile, for Minnesota, Kendricks and Dantzler are questionable. Bradbury's out. When it comes to the total, the Vikes are 75% to the over at US Bank Stadium. Meanwhile, the Giants on the other side, they saw 4 out of their last 5 get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the New York Football Giants +4 over 49.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Seahawks taking on the Chiefs. And that'll be a 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Now, Kansas City's -10, totals 49. Now, the Chiefs are a pretty bad covering team. They failed to cover in their last 3 straight. They also failed to cover in 7 out of their last 10. And of course, if you've been betting them, you know better than anybody. And even though these guys have been almost unstoppable on offense, they do tend to throw it a lot more than they run it at home. These guys are in the bottom 10 in home rushing. And I'll tell you this much, most alarming, this Chiefs defense, they tend to give up a lot of points late in games. They're in the bottom 10 in fourth quarter points allowed. So the reason why I'm so concerned, this is a really big number. They gave up a lot of points late. That back door is always open. Now the Chiefs, they're facing a Seattle team who does a real nice job moving the football on the road. These guys are scoring over 28 points a game while traveling. And they're in the top 3 in offensive yards per play away from home. Geno Smith's 8th. He's 8th in the league in passing yards, 4th in touchdowns. When it comes to the injury report, Woods, Lockett, and Neal are out. Dallas, Fant, and Goodwin are questionable. Meanwhile, for Kansas City, Forston's out. Dana's questionable. When it comes to the weather, bitter cold and breezy by kickoff. It's going to be 18 degrees in Kansas City by game time. Now, when it comes to the total, the Chiefs are 5-1 at the under in Arrowhead. Meanwhile, Seattle saw unders against the likes of San Francisco, Tampa Bay, and the Giants. I'm going to lean towards Seattle +10, keeping that one close, under 49. Next matchup, it is going to be Commanders, 49ers, 4:05 Eastern kickoff. San Francisco is the 6.5-point favorite, totals 37. Now, I do think the Niners can cover here regardless of their quarterback situation. This defense is allowing just 14 points a game at home, and that's actually a league low. They also have the number 1 rush defense in the game. Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner, they have over 200 tackles between the both of them. Meanwhile, Nick Bosa has a league-high 15.5 sacks. Now they're facing a Washington team who's in the bottom 5 in offensive yards per play. No real surprise here, guys. This Commanders offense is averaging only 19 points a game. Now, injury-wise, Charles is out. St. Juice and Cam Curl are questionable. Meanwhile, for San Fran, Kerry Hyder and Travarius Moore, they are questionable for them. Thomas and Mason are also potential inactives. Now, weather-wise, should be a beautiful day in Santa Clara. Not many nice places in the U.S. this weekend, but Santa Clara is one of them. It's going to be 60 degrees and the slightest of breeze by game time. Now, total-wise, 4 out of the Niners' 7 home games stayed under the number. Meanwhile, Washington has gone 10-4 to the under for the entire year. I'm going to lean towards San Francisco, -6.5, under 37. Next ball game, little NFC action, NFC East action, I'm talking about the Eagles at the Cowboys, 425 East. Dallas is -5 at home, totals 47. Now, both teams do have some problem areas that concern me. Now, for Dallas, they failed to cover in 3 out of their last 4. And they've had a tough time slowing down the run. Meanwhile, for Philadelphia on the other side, they failed to cover in 4 out of their last 7. They're going to work with Gardner Minshew as their starting quarterback. Now, injury-wise, obviously Jalen Hurts is out. Zach Pascal is questionable. Meanwhile, for Dallas on the other side, Leighton Vander Esch is out. Armstrong, Diggs, Parsons, Williams, and Ferguson, they are questionable as well. When it comes to the total, I actually wouldn't be shocked if this one got over. The Cowboys saw their last 4 straight get over the line, 70% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, Philadelphia went 7-3 the over in their last 10 themselves. When it comes to selecting a winner in this one, this game's being featured as my 3rd and final NFL tier package bet on my website. So if you want to see whether I think the Birds can pull it out with the backup, or if I like Dallas laying a significant number here at home, there's only one way to find out, and that's to sign up for my NFL tier package bet on my website. And of course, I'll include a link for my site in the description section below. And one final reminder, guys, if you do sign up for that package, you're going to get access to that membership for the next 30 days. And of course, as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships absolutely free. They're going to be included with your purchase. But as far as making a free pick is concerned, I'm going to lean toward the over 47 in that game. Next contest, little Saturday night football, Christmas Eve, true Christmas Eve. That is going to be Raiders, Steelers, 8:15 East. Pittsburgh's the 2-point favorite at home, totals 38. Now, the Steelers got the W in 3 out of their last 4 ball games. They've done a pretty nice job on defense at times. These guys are allowing fewer yards per play at home than most teams in the AFC. Devin Bush has 76 tackles on the season, along with a couple of TFLs. Meanwhile, Alex Highsmith and Cam Hayward, they have 17.5 sacks between the both of them. Now they're facing a Raiders squad who underachieves away from Vegas. They're 2-6 in their road trips. They've allowed 25 points a game in those contests. Now, injury-wise, Billings, Barton, Bars, and Butler are questionable. Yassine is out with a knee. Meanwhile, for the Steelers, Jack, Edmonds, and Johnson are questionable. When it comes to the total in this one, 4 out of Pittsburgh's last 6 at the field formerly known as Heinz stayed under the number. Meanwhile, Las Vegas is 5-3 to the under on the road. When it comes to the weather, bitter cold and windy in the Steel City Saturday night. It'll be 13 degrees and wind over 15 miles an hour by game time. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward Pittsburgh, -2, under 39.